Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review on Pathfinder To Bloom Below the Web from Paizo Inc. This is written by Leanna Merciel with Jeremy Blum, Joshua Kim, and Michelle Kim. This 96-page softcover is available now. It carries an MSRP of $26.99. You can grab just the PDF alone for $19.99. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got To Bloom Below the Web. A few things to mention before we dive on in. First of all, my friends over at Paizo Inc. were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page, but I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find in To Bloom Below the Web. And of course, also need to point out, this is the finale of the Season of Ghosts adventure path. So this is an adventure. So if you are a player and your game master has picked up the first chapters of Season of Ghosts, or maybe they're considering running Season of Ghosts, definitely recommend tune out now. There are going to be spoilers, so you have been warned. Now, of course, if your game master is thinking of picking up Season of Ghosts, by all means, let them know about this video so they can approach at least this chapter and make an informed buying decision. So this is the finale of Season of Ghosts. This is actually the fourth chapter. It's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing as of late. We normally have 3-part adventure paths. In the past, we used to have 6-part adventure paths, but those have kind of gone the way of the dodo as of late. But this is 4. And it's kind of a nod to like Asian performance, like Asian plays and theater and things like that, because they tend to have 4 acts. And that's why we have 4 parts in this adventure path. So this will be broken up into 3 chapters. Players are going to start off about 10th level when they begin this, and they're going to wrap up the adventure campaign probably around 13th level. So if you have been following my reviews of this adventure path, you already know I really do like this adventure path quite a lot. Now, I will be honest and say that this is probably my least favorite chapter of the 4. And it's not that this is bad by any stretch. There's a lot of really cool and fun set pieces in this chapter. It's just some of the encounters, some of the NPCs are kind of recycled from the previous chapter. So there are 2 major baddies as far as NPCs that the player characters have actually dealt with in another form in the previous adventure chapter. So a little bit of a letdown in my opinion, but still, all in all, this is a good adventure. So if you are not overly familiar with this adventure path, this is Asian themed. And I gotta say, I love a lot of these kind of mythical and legendary monsters and creatures. Really fun, very unusual. Love that aspect of the entire adventure path. And what's happened is 115 years ago, the governor of this province that the player character's village happens to be part of was trying to defeat this fiend. Went through this entire ritual to try to defeat it and actually screwed up and killed everybody, including himself. The players didn't realize that their characters were dead. For probably the first half of this adventure path, there were clues dropped. So clever players probably figured out that their player characters were actually deceased probably early on in the 2nd chapter of Season of Ghosts. But by this point, the player characters have actually returned the village to life and themselves to life. So they have gone through this whole process, this whole quest in order to return the village to life. And one interesting aspect of this that I like is that depending on the actions that the player characters have taken throughout this adventure path will determine how much of the village returns to life. So it is possible that the player characters are going to return to life. They're going to bring the village back. But a lot of NPCs that they have come to know in this sort of deathly veiled world will not return to life. So I like that quite a lot. I thought that was very, very cool. So what happens is the player characters and the village are back after 115 years, and the village had fallen into ruin in the meantime because no one lived there and people thought it was haunted, so they've avoided it. But there's a species of human spider hybrids that rule this region, and the player characters encountered sort of a shadowy version of this princess who's one of the big bads in the previous chapter. And now they're going to have to deal with her in the real world. And it's kind of cool, depending on how they approached her in the third chapter, will give the players clues on how to deal with her in the real world. And I do like that quite a bit, although she is kind of recycled a bit. Like I said, the power of this NPC is kind of lost in this chapter because the players have already encountered this NPC previously. And the same thing goes for the governor. So the governor's returned to life, but now he's actually meshed with this fiend. So he's a baddie. I mean, before he was just an asinine noble. Now he's actually the big, big bad. And the player characters will have to defeat him in order to put things right. So the players already dealt with this governor in the previous chapter. They may have battled him then. Once again, it's just kind of a shadow version of him. It's not the exact same NPC. But once again, a little bit anticlimactic because the player characters are actually going up against a big bad that they probably defeated in the previous chapter. All in all, I really do like this adventure path. It's one of my favorites to date for second edition Pathfinder. And I love the various different odd creatures of myth and legend that are brought to the fore here. There is a good section of this chapter devoted to continuing this campaign because this is Asian themed. We are going to see isn't it Tianjin? I think that's the region. It is a region book coming out for Pathfinder, which this fits into very nicely. That will be very cool. So there is a lot of gaming to be done in this adventure path. Of course, we're going to wrap up with our adventure toolbox. So we've got some new items, we've got some new creatures, and we've got our two big bads. So this is the princess that they've encountered that they have to deal with. And one aspect of this NPC that I like is she is a baddie, but the player characters don't necessarily have to have an antagonistic relationship with this NPC. They don't have to battle her. She's really more concerned with herself and her own power, not necessarily the powers above her. So the player characters can kind of manipulate this NPC and use her against the bigger bads in this chapter. So I like that quite a bit. And then, of course, we also had the governor. So this is the fiendish vessel That's his incarnation that the player characters are going to deal with in this finale. All right, so that is a peek inside to Bloom Below the Web. Let's swing on over to the other camera. I'm going to share some final thoughts and give this a review score. So as I've already mentioned, I really do like Season of Ghosts as an adventure path. I think it's really well done. A lot of fun. It's different. The creatures are different. I like the fact that the player characters are dead to start off with and don't realize that. Now, some players might have a bit of an issue with that when they find out. But, of course, the main goal is to return themselves and the village to life. So they shouldn't be too bent out of shape for too long. I think this adventure path would have been better served if it was 3 parts and not 4. And I get it. I understand it's a nod to Asian theater and performance. That's why we've got the 4 acts. We've got the 4 parts. But there are parts of this finale that just feel anticlimactic because the player characters have dealt with these 2 big bads previously. Now, they're not exactly the same, but they are similar enough. So I will have to ding this for that because it just doesn't feel fresh and as exciting as a finale as it could be, because the wrap up of the 3rd chapter was the player characters fighting the governor. And then the wrap up to the finale is the player characters fighting the governor. Little bit different, little different approaches, but still, but just a little too similar to get overly excited about. But I can say, all in all, the entire adventure path, I am excited about. I've really liked it. And once again, it is one of my favorite Pathfinder adventure paths to this point. Now, as far as To Bloom Below the Web, on a scale of 0 to 10, it's good. It's just not great. I give it a 7 out of 10. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It will not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.